Let's get into it. It's the Amandaland Ambassador. Y'all, let's welcome Ernest Crim III.
Hey, what's
to the
up,
stage. What's up, Ernest? We are in Valentine's Day mode today, just trying to be festive since
Happy
everything
Valentine's
is
Day to
terrible.
y'all in advance.
Since everything is terrible, we're like, hey, how
Right.
about it?
Exactly.
How are you?
I'm great. It's always great to talk to you and see you. I'm in a great mood, regardless of everything that's going on the outside. I think I am pretty optimistic considering the context of the world burning.
Tell me more. We love to hear that. Tell me
What
more.
I mean, and this has not just started this year, this mindset. I think just being Black in America, you have had to master the art of, if you want to be sane in this country to the best of your ability, right? Because to live in this country is to be in a state of rage at all times, like Dr. James Baldwin says. But for me, it's trying my best to focus on what I can control in that moment. But I will tell you, because I was just speaking to a group of educators last week. Shout out to Teach for America, the Chicago chapter. And the moderator asked me a question. She said, how do you maintain hope? And I had to stop for a second because I didn't know. And I literally almost broke down because I was like, yo, that's a great question, because some days I don't have it. And I think what gives me like hope, though, when I sat and thought about it, was I have to read about my people. And I think that's why I love what I do so much. And I think that's why I teach with so much ferocity and passion, because if I start my day, for example, learning about what we had to endure even 50 years ago, 100 years ago, like it literally pales in comparison to what we're dealing with now. That's not to say that it's not difficult, but it gives me strength to say that if I can apply those principles, I can keep going, because we literally stand on their shoulders. And if we understand that the job was never done, then we have everything we need to keep going and pass that baton to the next person.
So we're passing this baton. How Black history. Ooh, where'd you go? Hold on now.
I'm here. Oh, there we go.
No. So talk to us about the book.
Yeah, so my debut book on a publisher, How Black History Can Save Your Life, from the talk to George Floyd, everything you need to know, de-escalate a racist situation. This, to me, so it starts with a hate crime I dealt with in 2016. And essentially, I'm using that as an entry point for people to understand the ways in which systemic racism impacts us as Black folks here and across the world. I, as a former classroom teacher, grew tired of learning and teaching history from, all right, we're going to start at 1619. We're going to learn about these people. Then we're going to go to this part. Then we're going to go to 1776. We learn best through stories and narratives. That's how I deliver when I speak keynotes, and that's how I deliver when I make content videos or whatever. So for this, I'm taking you through my life's journey. When I dealt with that hate crime, which I so happened to be recording, there's a reason why I decided to fight it. And I think that when we even think about the idea of fighting, we have a very narrow view. There are times when you have to, put fists to people and do what you do to defend your livelihood. And there are also times when you have to say, even beyond that, if we do, we have to say, well, what does that fight look like now for the duration of my life, right? Because even beyond, like this conversation you were having about voting, what does it look like to vote outside of actually going to the ballot box? So I'm taking people through a journey of when I first dealt with racism as a child, all the way up into the point where I dealt with it in that situation, to give you context of why we have to be able to have pride in ourselves to fight, and also understand the context of racism. I'm going from the age of 6, when my mother was told by a white teacher at a white school I was bused to that I was bad. And my mom interjects by saying, have you read Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu's Conspiracy to Destroy the Black Boy? My mom didn't play. You see what I'm saying?
She said, happy Kwanzaa, what?
And she offered to give her a copy of the book. Just buy the book, you'll see what I mean. So, but it's for Black parents, it's for Black folks in community that are activists, it's for educators, it's for white folks, other people of color, so that we understand what we're going through, so that we can interject and also help create a better system.
Was there anything that shifted, like a perspective that shifted while writing this? Any perspectives that changed?
From my angle?
Yeah, like I feel like when you're
Yeah,
writing something,
yeah,
sometimes you, in the midst of writing, are like, "Oh, well, hold on now,"
yeah, yeah,
because as
yeah.
I'm writing my book, I've had to do a little bit of that.
It is one of the most therapeutic things ever, right? Especially when it's about your life. Because I will say, I mean, I was driven to write the book not just because of the hate crime, but for people who follow me, 7 months later, I had a breakdown. I had a breakdown
Yeah.
on the way to work, working in an environment where I was one of a few black males dealing with this, going to court every few months, and just not feeling accepted. So I would say that I realized that I was traumatized more than I thought. Because
Mm.
I got frustrated when people would interview me, especially white folks, and they'd be like, "So first off, we're so sorry this happened, and blah 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 blah. And this is just horrible." I said, "That's horrible, but do you know where I grew up? Like, y'all don't have no sympathy
Where
for
did you
the
grow
South
up?
Side. On the South Side of Chicago. Like, come on, man. There's no food there. like,
There's no food
there's no
there.
food. The Walgreens shut down. It's a Dollar General. It's a Harold's Chicken. It's a liquor store. You know what I'm saying? That's
Mm.
more harmful to me than somebody calling you the N-word, spitting on you, or something like that. So I think I was just able to realize that the degree to which we are traumatized in this country without the context and the words to be able to give truth to power. And that empowered me because, especially, Amanda, like between the 80s and 90s, I feel like we forget that in Black history. We stop, like, we do Dr. King.
You
We
know, I
talk
talk about this all the time.
Right. We talk about the Panthers a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And then we just like jump to Obama. We talk about Rodney King a little bit too. Then we jump to Obama. Then we're like, well, everything's better. Nah. There's a lot more to talk about. And I have all my reflections on that too.
How do you feel like parents, or not even parents, how do you feel like we as a community in this very hostile environment that is making it its business to suppress and quiet and silence and eradicate history and truth, how do you feel like we as communities can show up in practical ways to just curtail this and rise above that?
Yeah, we do that by realizing that, look, y'all, this public education system has not existed that long. Okay, let's give some context, right? When we talk about some of our great leaders, a lot of them didn't even finish middle school. You know what I'm saying? School as it is now hasn't even existed as a requirement for people, for the most part, to kind of go through high school. We ain't talking about even like a 100 years or so. Somebody fact check me, but I know we're not that far off from that. So that means that for the majority of time we were in here, we think about folks like Frederick Douglass and, what I'm saying, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who had to fight tooth and nail to get an education. It wasn't just a requirement for them to be matriculate through that system. So I think when we give ourselves that perspective, when I read Frederick Douglass's autobiography in college, that's what I'm talking about. That's why I like wanted to take this path, because I'm like, I'm in one of the top public schools in the country, and this dude sound way smarter than me. He ain't got a degree. So somebody lied to me. They made it seem like you get this degree, you on this path, you super smart. No, Frederick Douglass was way more intelligent than most folks that, you know what I'm saying? So I think we have to understand, what does it look like? And it's difficult in capitalism, but how do we teach this at home? I'm gonna give you an example. My kids go to a pretty diverse school in terms of the student body. The staff is not, right? I recall when my kids first started going to that school, I emailed the principal like, yo, what's going on with Black History Month? What are you all doing? Can you believe this might be the next book I write, right? Because parenting now, because I'm a parent. This, the other stuff was childhood for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
This white principal says, well, we don't want to like alienate the other cultural groups, so we don't just celebrate, Black History Month. We don't celebrate any of the months. We just have the
We're
teachers.
in the United States. We're
It's
in the
like,
United States.
what
If
are you
we were
talking
in
about?
Mexico, I would not feel alienated if they were celebrating, the Mayan History Month.
Exactly.
We're in Mexico.
Exactly. So I took it upon myself to say, and my mom did this a lot too. I learned a lot of Black history at home first. So I started taking my kids out of school certain days. I would take them out to come see me present sometimes. Sometimes I would speak at schools about Black history, and I would have them either watch, especially if I was speaking to young kids, or I would have them participate in skits sometimes, right? I would take them out of school. When I got a chance to speak with Colin Kaepernick at his camp, I took my kids out. You gonna like, here's the option: you stay in school for a day on this Friday, do the same stuff you always doing, or you meet Colin Kaepernick and see me speak.
Yeah.
I don't care if y'all excuse the absence. I'm taking you out. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for example, this year, what I decided to do is since I have a larger platform, I want to extend that invitation to people and just kind of model what we do. So on February 27th, for the people that's in the Chicago area, I'm taking my kids out and some other folks and other close friends and family. Like, we're going to the DeSable Museum during the school day. We ain't waiting to Saturday. We're taking time out because for a lot of these kids, they ain't learning nothing the whole month, or they might learn some little facts without any added context. So parents, take your kids out sometimes for education. You know what I'm saying? And if you are not in the Chicago area, I encourage, I got a lot of folks who follow me in New York, Philly, LA, Houston, like, take your kids out the same day. Yeah. Go to a local Black History museum or site. And we have to begin that practice. We're going to take some field trips together in person and virtually. If you want to do it in the Chicago area, check out my Instagram, Mr. Crim III. I got a sign up link in the bio.
What would you say is a needed shift in how we are approaching how we teach Black history now, if any?
Yeah, I'll start with Dr. John Henry Clark. If you start your history with slavery, everything after will seem like an improvement. You know, like, you can only become a better slave. I'm sorry. You know, if you start your history with slavery, the only thing you can become is a better slave. So I think we have to start with something broader. We have to understand that we are connected. We are in this diaspora of Africanness, of Blackness. And if we're talking about let's just say the last 400 years or so, 400, and let's just say in the span, let's say 4,000 years ago, you know, ancient Kemet, what was going on in East Africa, West Africa. Think about how small of a percentage that is that we focus on. So when we talk about our ancestors, we have to be clear that we're not just talking about the folks who were enslaved and persevered, but we also talking about the folks who lived at a time when they did not even have to think about or conceptualize race or an ism. They had struggles too, like all people do, but it boggles my mind when I sit and meditate sometimes, or I'll ask an audience, like, what does it look like for Black people to not have to focus on racism? And I can't even conceptualize it because I've never had it, but our people did for the majority of our existence. We got to start there.
Well, that's what it's like being, you know, having the duality of being Grenadian and American. Because when you're in Grenada, that's not a thing. It's not a thing. I remember my good friend, she was visiting in the States, and she was at a convention in Tennessee. And while she was at this convention, all of a sudden, Donald Trump was now coming to the convention. And she said the entire energy of the convention changed because this man was coming. And all these MAGA folks started showing up. And she was like, you know, it was the first time I was ever aware of my Blackness. And I just said, I have to call Amanda because I've never thought about it until this moment right now. And she said that this Black guy came up to them and was like, you know, it's good to see other Black folks here. And she was like, oh, yeah. And he was like, you know, go MAGA. And she's like, oh, God. You know, honestly, Ernest, one of the things that irks me is I feel like and you kind of alluded to this earlier, just in terms of, it's like it all stopped after the Civil Rights Movement. Like, we don't have any heroes of movement after the Civil Rights Movement.
Right.
We have heroes of artistry and heroes of industry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you know, and it hurts me to say this as a Chicago.
What's going on in your house?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do I have to turn something down?
No. I want to hear. I just want to know.
Okay, no, it's a snow day. Look, let me tell y'all. Look, I'm sorry to go off track. I got 4 girls, okay, between 2 and 11. It's a snow day and snow ain't dropped yet. The other 2 days, my oldest daughters had school off because somebody went and jacked the catalytic converters from 80 to 90% of the buses. The morning after the Super Bowl. I'm just, so it's been a week, but I'm still smiling. So if y'all hear some lullabies and
I'm just like, it's popping Rachel over there. I'm like, bring the camera. Where are they at? I'm hearing songs.
This mic picking up everything. So I was saying, like, as a Chicagoan, it pains me to say this, but when I think about the impact that, let's call it, you know, Jordan with the Jordanomics, you know, or the branding of Jordan had on our society, I can't help but think about how that was all intertwined contextually with Reaganomics. and crack in our community, and Jordan being drafted, and the individualism, right? If you ask black kids 50 years ago, they probably won't say, I want to grow up and be a basketball player. That is still ingrained in our boys today. It's either athlete or maybe now they would say an influencer. I think that we have to really dissect the impact of individualism in our society too, because I've had to check myself. We often uplift the individual accomplishments of people, or the first one to do something, and I get it, but
I hate a black first. I can't stand a black first.
And it's like, okay, like
they just said like the first black woman coach won the Super. I was like, oh,
yeah, right, and it for one, it makes it appear as if we never had the ability to do that thing, and also too, like
wait, hold that.
Yeah,
it makes it appear as if we never had the ability to do that thing.
It's like, yo, we held you down. We held you down on purpose, and somehow you broke through. Congratulations. You know what? When we think about, okay.
When you hear me say that in my show, you can be like, I said that on her
show. Yeah. When you think about even, let's say, again, Obama, and I'm just talking about the representation aspect, not the political point, but he wasn't the first qualified black person, right, to become the president. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, Frederick Douglass, Harry, we go back, right? It's Jackie Robinson. He wasn't before. He wasn't the first. He was the first in the 20th century, but he wasn't the most qualified. He wasn't even he was a great player, but he wasn't the best. He was the one they knew that could put up with stuff a little bit more, So I think that's a perspective. If we're going to give a first, we got to give the context of not just why, but also too, what community effort led to that creation. What organization helped King and Rosa Parks do what they do? What King went to all these, he was from Atlanta. He was organizing in different places, not just because of him. He had the voice. They were organizing on the ground. They wanted him because how he could speak and how he was in order. So I think we have to give truth to power. And we also have to say, if we're going to say the first, give the perspective on the individual side. This is the first that we know of here, but not the first in our history. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about like the doctors and stuff, we know we were doing this already. And even in African societies, you are hard pressed to find a lot of labels of the first, because that's not how we operated as a culture. It wasn't, you did it first. Let's give you a Hall of Fame shrine. It's no, this is for the collective, bruh. Yeah. And I mean, but like the 80s really, I think, hurt us and harmed us more than we think. And for a lot of folks out there, if you have ever seen Crack, I think is a documentary on Netflix, it can give you the visual imagery of what I mean.
I thought you were ending at the word crack, like if you ever seen crack, and I was like, I have seen crack. It's talking to me. I have seen crack. I did see the documentary though. Yeah, I was literally standing at the train station. I looked over and this dude was just smoking crack next to me, and I was like, buddy, come on, man. Yo. And he looked at me like I was here first.
Yo, let me tell you this though. Like this is why we have to not just study history, but like study local history. So the town I live in now is about 45 minutes from Chicago, and I came across this book that was out here. It was called the Brown Book, and it was a list of every black-owned business in that area in the 50s and 60s. So me being a historian, the content creator, I say, oh, I got to find out where those buildings are now so that I can maybe just do some content there. I go over there and I start looking up the numbers and get to a point in time where I see a bunch of empty lots and then the numbers run out. And when you look directly to the left of it's called Chicago Street in Joliet, Illinois, you see none other than a adult detention center, aka a euphemism for a jail.
Yeah.
So in the 70s, right, Great Migration, black folks are coming here. You see a wave of black. So most of the black folks who lived there were working at Caterpillar, factory jobs and stuff like that. So that's the clientele for the black-owned businesses. The policies of the 70s and 80s outsourced those jobs to other countries. Black folks are then losing jobs, and then what comes in the place of those jobs? We get drugs introduced in our community. Yes. So now people are selling drugs to survive and become street entrepreneurs. And then by the end of that very decade, that adult detention center is created by 1989. That's how this system works.
Yep.
And that's the 80s and the 90s. And that's what we're still fighting, in addition to Jim Crow, in addition to the legacy of slavery.
Yeah. Now, just a side note, Laurel said that she got mugged for knocking crack out of a dealer's hand in San Francisco. Now, Laurel, you asked for that.
Yeah.
Okay. You asked for that.
You got to be careful out there now. Listening to too much Nancy Reagan. I know Nancy Reagan.
Domestic violence, break it up. Yeah, I mean, break it up.
I
A
ain't seen
woman
nothing.
getting hurt, break it
Right.
up.
You
Drug
know?
deals, y'all
Yeah.
got it.
Yep. I ain't
You
see a
got it.
thing.
I don't. Hey,
That's
hey,
my ride over there, matter of fact. I'm about to head out.
That's my ride. All right, now I am very specific about how I want people to address y'all when you come on my show because I am from the Caribbean and I'm old school and I'm like, please address the guests as Mr. Crim. So understand, I'm not going to ask him your question until you put Mr. Crim. All right. Also, this is a part of my effort to really get us in the habit of following directions, reading. Okay. Following directions and reading. It's not like I'm leading you down a garden path. But side note, we can't have a movement if people can't follow directions. Okay. Crim, Ernest, Mr. Crim, I told these folks I had a free show 3 times in the show. It wasn't until the 3rd time that they was like, the show is free? Come on, man.
I mean, it's the same thing when you post content, right? And you have everything in the caption, right? Everything in the video. Somebody say, well, where can I get it? Where's the book?
They know here I don't play. Don't ask no dumb questions over here. Google.
Sure.
All right.
Real.
Ev Story says, Mr. Crim, what are some ways to bridge differences between different communities, i.e. Black and Asian communities? I feel so many Asians have been so brainwashed by whites that they're so lost. Side note, this week, my podcast, Small Doses, has side effects of anti-Asian hate with Dr. Connie One, and she actually talks about this on the show.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that just like with any community, this type of stuff is allowed to survive and fester because of intentional segregation. I think the design of the system is for us to see that or believe that we have, more differences than things in common. I think that for one, I don't like to spend time trying to convince people to work with me or my humanity. I'm not doing that.
I preach to the choir.
Yeah, so you got to meet me halfway. I mean, when Malcolm X was connected with Yuri, and I forgot her last name off the top of my head. I don't know if you all are familiar, but he organized with a Japanese American woman who was formerly incarcerated in the internment concentration camp. I think it's Yuri Kachiyama. He did not have to convince her, right? When she was coming to his lectures and she found out about him, she reached out to him. I think that if you are in community or spaces with any Asian folks, or close to you, you just have to kind of, if you want to expend that energy, provide those examples. I mean, look at what, Fred Hampton did with the Rainbow Coalition. There are a lot of Asian American folks here who are organizing. I'm in community, right? Some of my close friends, because they are aware of this already. I'm organizing with some folks in California with the Reparations Task Force, and there are Japanese Americans on that task force who are trying to help out because they have success with reparations.
Yes.
So yeah, we can't be blinded by the media. The media will tell you that Asians are against us, Latinos are against us, and it's just not the case. Every community, not every Black person is for us. I'm not about to waste my time,
sir.
You know what I'm saying? And I would tell you that's when you talk about tough realizations that you have while writing a book or just in life. That was one of the things that's always the toughest for me. Is man, all of us really ain't for us. For the people who saw the hate crime video, y'all, the woman who did that to me and my wife, she was with 2 Black folks who were defending her. They were right there. They weren't in the background. They were there, building a bridge to stop us from potentially jumping over there. So we have to just be able to meet people where they are. And if you are in a larger city, this is easy. Find ways to connect with communities that are already doing the work.
The building a bridge thing is so real. I feel like my shows are bridge sites, right? So I feel like I've been able to get different folks come into my shows now, and I want people at my shows to connect with each other at my shows. If you come to Amanda Seales' show, you should leave meeting somebody that you didn't know before. Particularly look for the person that you would never talk to and talk to them, because both of y'all ended up at Amanda Seales' show. I'm not a pop star, so there's no generalness here. It's a niche space.
Well, no, I mean, I got to interject. You're pretty amazing though. I know you might not say you a pop star, but you're.
No, I'm just saying pop is very general. It's very generic, I'm just gonna sing this thing. Pop is I'm gonna sing a song about mustard. And who don't like mustard? I'm not gonna come to the show because I hate mustard. But mustard!
I had to explain that to my mom. My mom said, why was he screaming mustard? It's not to go too far, but look, check it out. Because I screenshotted like his name and whatever to my mama said, because that's the DJ's name, mom. But I said, dang, his first name is Dejan. I ain't ever know his first name was Dejan.
Hilarious.
Ain't
His
that
first
crazy?
name is Dejan.
His first name is Dejan.
That's why he's DJ Mustard.
I would imagine from the hood somebody was roasting him, right? Boy, your name Dejan. Mustard head. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, mustard face ass. That's brilliant, actually.
Ain't it? But really, to what your point, if you follow somebody who has a significant following, if you look in the comments for people who support, you'd be surprised. I'll be surprised at the number of white folks that be like following. I'll just be, kudos to y'all.
The white folks be up in these comments,
they
okay?
do.
The blacks, the whites, and we got a real global representation here. This is why I like this better than Instagram, by the way. Leah Jackson, let me just tell you, Leah followed instructions because she had written a question. And then I said, it needs to be addressed to Mr. Crim. And she said, let me come back now and hit you with the correction. Okay, Mr. Crim, I'm starting an online Black History class for community, friends, and family who want to learn. Oh, I think your question got cut off. I have my ideas to start, but what would you recommend to consider?
So if you are starting an online class, consider who you want to be involved. Do you want it to be online for your immediate community, or do you want it to be online for because again, the internet is global. I have an online K-5 class that we meet about 3 times a month, Monday evening. And it's kids all over the country, about 30 plus kids come online. A good portion in Chicago too, but because my videos go everywhere, people from anywhere can join you. So I think you have to think about where you want to organize it at. So if let's say you are from Atlanta, do you want to organize teachers? At the local schools, or parents at the PTA meetings and stuff like that? I think that's the most important thing, because that can kind of drive your curriculum. If most of the people are local, I think your Black history should focus on that local lens, because that was one of the issues I had about teaching in the class. I'm teaching kids in the hood. I'm teaching, poor Black, white kids, Hispanic kids. And we're only talking about presidents and war. What about what happened here in your community at that exact same time? Kids need to know how that impacted them then and what they can do to change that community. So location, and then figure out what is the curriculum for? What are you trying to change? I'm a project-based teacher, because I want to give kids here, this is the fact, but this is why it matters. I'm not just giving you Lonnie Johnson invented the Super Soaker. Why does that matter? Okay, let's talk about that. It's not just the accomplishment, it's the creativity behind it that can drive a further invention for you today. So I think those are the 2 main things I will consider. If you got any more questions, hit me up, info@ernestcrim.com.
Tell me more about the K-5 class.
Yeah, so I actually started that during my last year in the classroom, because I had some parents reaching out to me online asking for private tutoring and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, I spent a year and a half teaching over Zoom for the school district, making crumbs or whatever. I could do this on my own and make a little bit more. So, and also too, I think that I've always thought about the concept of creating a school, but I just don't really have a desire to create a brick and mortar. I think that this is just where we are. And I think it's a great way to connect with different people. Also, the fact that most kids won't have a Black male educator. We are 1.3. When I started teaching in 2010, it was 1.7. When I left in 2022, it was 1.3. Thanks. So it's not getting better. Right. I just decided, and I don't promote it that much, honestly, because I don't for the most part, want it to get super big beyond the community I have there. But we, instead of just teaching kids chronological Black history, I teach K-5 kids Black history through books. So we read a book each month, sometimes 2. We spend the first half building community, playing, joking around, playing this or that games, having them talk in groups. I spend the whole first semester, so September through December, we don't even talk about slavery. We read African history books. I don't even want kids to even think that that's the only thing. Yeah. We just started talking about slavery now in this February. We just started.
Got there.
And for my class, you know what I'm saying? It ain't even we talking about slavery and Black History Month, but it's really not that. We talking about slavery in my class. Yes. And even and every time for the person that asked that question, for any time you talk about the trauma we face, you got to give kids the counterpunch. Who fought against it? What groups fought it? Don't just be 1619. No. Okay. I taught my kids this past week. 1619 happened And then in Virginia in 1687, they outlawed black folks having, they call them slave funerals because black folks were planning revolts at these funerals. So they would go to these funerals, so-called funerals, and they're planning to fight back. Like any and everything is for liberation. We couldn't play drums. We could, you know what I'm saying? Because we were fighting back constantly. So don't ever have our kids think that we were just passive participants.
We've got another question for you. How do we heal from so many ugly? I mean, I think you just gave one example. How do you heal from so many ugly racist incidents that happened during the course of our lifetime?
Yeah. Well, we do stuff like this. You know, we create community. I think you provide a great model for that too with Patreon, having private communities. I would say that I gave a talk about this recently. So I would say the first thing we got to do is realize that this happens in a broader context. You know, we're not alone. There's a quote that says, nothing's wrong with you. Something happened to you. So just remember that there's nothing like when you see Bronzeville, Chicago, when you see Tulsa, Black Wall Street, when you see the Harlem Renaissance, you got to understand, literally bootstrapped. We didn't get anything. So think about the broader context of what we dealt with and how you're not alone. Then I would say also you have to find a way to, I would say, self-metabolize that trauma. So what can you do on an individual basis that helps you out? For me, it helped to write. I think that's also one of the reasons I like to speak, because honestly, I've been doing that for 8 years now about my incident. And every time I do it, I unleash another like some more baggage that was on me. It helps to teach people.
Yeah.
And I could be expressive with it. I could be artistic with it, and I can express how I truly felt in that moment. For some people, another thing I like to do, I like lifting weights. I mean, like for me, if I can lift that heavy weight, I can get this weight off my back, you know, transferably.
If I can
it's a lot.
lift
I mean,
that weight.
Yo, touch grass, go outside. And lastly, you know, be in person with community with people.
Yeah.
But also too, if you can get therapy, get therapy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Good old therapy.
Yeah.
Last one. Mr. Crim, how do you feel about the Hispanic movement over the deportation and border issues? Remember, border is BORDER, and how the Black community responds. I feel both communities should be allies and ride or die. Fair. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't get into this. Well, they don't. I just don't have. I don't know, y'all. I don't.
Isn't it silly?
I'm not. As a Black man, I will never debate somebody's humanity and go tit for tat. Well,
I'm not doing it.
If they would,
it sounds crazy.
It's lunacy. It sounds like a white supremacist.
It really does.
That's what it does.
When I see Black women doing the whole like, I'm in the 92%, I'm like, you sound like a dumb fool, because you're 92%. All you did was really just say, okay, we're going to uphold an establishment that's never cared about 92% of us. They've never cared about you ever.
And that's the thing too. Even thinking back to that previous question, we have to be proactive with the self-care, because as long as this system exists, we're gonna be traumatized. It's gonna happen. We have to be able to find ways and to build strong bonds together. So like when I see what's happening to the Latino community, I'm not looking at some of the folks that maybe voted for Trump who, again, y'all, we're citizens here. I got people in my comments telling me they voted for Trump. I said, y'all, undocumented folks can't even vote. They ain't even vote for this. Like, what are we talking about, y'all? And we have to like really, again, step outside of our boxes, live where you want to live, but try to connect with other people. I've taught at a school for 10 years that was primarily Hispanic. So I talk about this in my book. During the first term, when Trump was running, I remember that day after he won, I had a large population of undocumented kids. I had kids crying in my class, y'all, crying in my class. I have to change everything in my curriculum to teach. I don't care what color the person is. I have kids whose parents were taken away. You know what I'm saying? So although I have to, of course, be concerned with what impacts me immediately in my vicinity as a Black man, that is something I'm still concerned with. And that's why we can't beat this alone. Like none of us, we build our communities and what we fight for, and then we join hands and we fight together.
And I think for me, that's one of the differences that I would say we have to include in how we teach about Black history in the present, because I feel like a lot of the Black history that we learn about is taught in a very siloed fashion, as if there weren't other communities that were assisting and aiding in the work that was being done,
Yep.
and it's not to take away from the leadership of Black folks or from the groundswell of Black folks, but I think it really is important to note that yes, there were white people that was in the freedom rides, there were Jewish people that were in the freedom rides, that yes, there, like you said, Fred Hampton and the Rainbow Coalition, like there have been interconnectivity. Like these silos are only created and upheld for the purpose of us not banding together, which be sounding it'd be sounding like kumbaya, but it really isn't. It's just the reality.
It's
like
common sense. Like
because listen, whiteness is really just, okay, we decided that we'll make this thing that kind of it's an umbrella over our ethnicities, because over there in England, y'all, Irish and English is not the same. They not looking at each other like you white and I'm white. They like, you are English, get off of our island. Okay. And I don't think people over here really understand that over here, this whole white thing is a thing that is made up, and it's not real. And as us, and as we exist in this time, we also have to understand that, like, during the civil rights movement, there wasn't immigrants in the same way there are now. There wasn't an onslaught of, not onslaught's not the word. There wasn't a flow of migrant workers from Central America and from Mexico in the same way that there are now, because America has destabilized, the United States has destabilized all of these places for the past.
Exactly. And check this out. When people say, like, they're literally parroting white supremacist point, saying that they're coming here to take our jobs. That's why they deported Mexicans in the 30s. They deported them in the 1930s, citizens and people who were undocumented. And guess who still didn't get jobs? Black people.
Same.
FDR, they did all of that, and they passed a New Deal for white people. That's why A. Philip Randolph was about to plan a march on Washington. Like, if you are saying kick them out so that we can get what we got, you're saying that this country will, for the first time ever, prioritize Black people. And you got to come on, be real.
I appreciate you for always being real. I always give our ambassadors of the week the opportunity to speak directly to the people and give them a message. So I'm going to take myself off camera, and it is time. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Ernest Crim to talk to the.
All right, what's up, y'all? So check this out. First off, I appreciate you all for being in the community today, this morning, this evening, whenever you're watching this. I got to first give Amanda flowers. I don't know if a lot of people know this, and I say this every time I talk on her platform, but my TikTok was popping at one point. My Instagram wasn't. And because of people like her, people like DL Hughley, Monique, who are like reposting my stuff, the platform grew. So I'm forever grateful
their names
for her.
Here. We don't see DL Hughley here. He does not live here. We do not say DL Hughley's name here.
All right, I got you. So for people like her, we have to make sure we uplift artists who are using their platform for activism as well. And with that said, y'all realize that everything that we want to do and have to do already is within us. It exists in our history. Study the greats from the past. Study what they did. We have a better opportunity to organize and create now because of what they did back then. From my perspective, we have to take back our responsibility of educating our kids. When we educate our kids correctly, what do? We can help restructure their imagination and how they view themselves. If we can put better images in their head, they can better imagine what their future looks like by acting right now in the present. So you can, of course, purchase my book, How Black History Can Save Your Life, to see how you can strategize this more, but then also join me on a field trip. Y'all, we talked about the general strike on here previously before I came on here. Let's start to take our kids out of school occasionally to educate them the way they need to be. And the last thing is, I have a free Black History Month curriculum on my site. Go to my IG at Mr. Crim III or ErnestCrim.com. Thank you all for being here today. It's a pleasure as always. I think I'm good. I still got time, so check this out.
Thank you so much. Y'all make sure you support and get you How Black History Can Save Your Life, from the talk to George Floyd, everything you need to know to de-escalate a racist situation. And if you are like, what do you mean the talk? That means that you need to buy it first. If you don't know what the talk means, we're not referring to the birds and the bees. So that means you need to go there, get the book, go to Ernest Crim. They can get it at ernestcrim.com backslash shop, right?
Yep.
Last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult or how easy was it for you to write this book?
Ooh, easy, because I tell you, I look at it like, how when people would say their first album was like they classic, they pinnacle, because they put their whole life into it. That's how I felt. The hardest part was just getting started. I promised myself, I started in March of 2017. I said, I got to finish it by the end of 2018. I wrote every single day. I used my phone, the note section, sometimes to just add little sections. I wrote an outline for it. I was working full time at the time. And I say all that because having all those structures in place, I only was able to write during a certain time,
Right.
So it was easy from that perspective. You've done this before though. So
Stop yelling at me.
I'm sorry. I'm just stop wasting time.
Stop yelling at me. Yo, my book is on sale. The book is not done. Ernest Crim III.
Ooh.
The book is due
Ooh.
in final form on March 10th.
Oh man.
So next week, I have to take a week off from this show to get well, because I've been sick for the past week. And also so that I can write. But I will let y'all know.
Yeah.
I did figure out, because I needed to write a chapter on relationships. And I didn't know how I wanted to address it.
Yeah.
But I figured it out last night around 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Because I drank this concoction, Ernest Crim. Tried. My Guatemalan contractor, Henry, our Guatemalan king, he put together this concoction, and he was like, drink this at night. You will feel better.
You were drinking some of that stuff that what they call that?
Ayahuasca?
No. Yeah.
But it was like onion, garlic, like all these random things. But it actually didn't taste bad, but it makes you pee. Like I just kept I had to go to the bathroom, and I was just like, it's done. It's done. But I say all that to say that I'm gonna write this, but I was hoping you would tell me it was hard so I could feel good.
Nah,
you got it was easy.
It's easy. It's easy. Because I think the toughest part for me, honestly, is minimizing some of the information. Like, because this is a re-release, right? Because I self-published this first.
Yes.
I had to take out like 90 pages, y'all. That hurt my soul.
Editing is my jam, though. I'm not precious. I'm like, get this out of here. But I will be reading a draft chapter of my book tonight in Brooklyn at a space called Super Duper Fresh. So it's about process. So I'm going to read the chapter, and then I'm going to read the notes that the editor gave. And then, we'll talk about that. But I commend you, brother, as always. Do you see yourself writing any more books?
Oh, yeah. I see, again, the problem is, what should the next one be? I got like 5 ideas in my head in my note section. It's just about what I think we need next. And of course, I'm on contract too. I got to write something, but I'm ready. It's just about what do we need? And I think I'm ready to deliver that. And it won't be 350 pages like my first self-published book was. I'm gonna get it in and out.
Oh, this book is gonna be, my chapter on my nervous breakdown is 16,000 words, single spaced.
Oh, you go. Oh man, I can't wait to read this. So when is the tentative release date?
I don't know. It's October.
Oh yeah. Okay, we getting it. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it's October. It's called Body Waving Through the BS.
Oh yeah. Do you have to go away sometimes to write and clear your mind? Or do you just kind of where you are, just write?
I would love to do that. Pedo, that's just not where we at. I ain't got no money right now.
Yeah.
Ernest Crim. I ain't got no money right now.
Yeah.
We got 9 more days for my house to sell in California, y'all.
You got it.
We in escrow. 9 more days, y'all. 9 more days. Ernest, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And
you.
thank you so much for being so committed to the people and for being a real one all the time. You know what I mean?
Right back at
Because
you.
that's really what it is. You know, I think for those of us who be on these internets, we see so many people switch side, which is why I said we do not say that man's name over here. He is a paid coon. We do not allow it. We do not allow it. And it's really just... For me, it's really encouraging to see folks that I know have the brain power, also have the heart power.
Yeah. Hey, real recognize real. You know what I'm saying? And again, those who know, some of y'all started following me because of some of your posts. So, hey, I got you. Whatever I could do, let me know.
I appreciate you. Y'all go to ernestcrim.com and get the book. Black History Can Save Your Life. Thank you, Ernest. All right, y'all. I enjoyed laughing and learning with you. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell your friends. Also, listen to the podcast. It's available everywhere pods are casted. Listen ad-free by subscribing to Patreon Amanda Seals. Come on and join the Seals Squad. Views from Amandaland. Live 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Wednesday, with content on Thursday and Friday at YouTube Amanda Seals TV.
Smart, funny, and